Hi again, everybody. This is the Portly Paladin again. I just wanted to bring you to us another update. I got my measurements taken care of this week. My wife helped me out with those, so I wanted to go ahead and report those while I've got a second. First off, let's go ahead and get that done. My right bicep is 18.5 inches. Right wrist 8, neck 23.5, chest 67.5, waist 70 1/4, right thigh 35.5, right calf 28 3/4, left thigh 35 3/4, and left calf 25. That's a total of about 7.5 inches from last week. Not quite as good as the first week, but not too bad. Not too bad. I'll take it. Um, I think the only thing that really didn't change this time around was my wrist and what else? And my neck are the only things that really didn't. No, my neck changed too. Okay, well, some couple things didn't change, but um, not too bad. I'm not expecting the wrist to change too quickly, but I figure it will eventually. But since there's kind of bone there and stuff, but I'm noticing in the last couple of years the watch I wear has been getting a little bit more snug, so I expect it to go down eventually, but probably not too quickly. But moving on, I want to get through a couple more things while I've got you guys here. Um, Something I did this week is I have a lot of cookbooks. I keep them in my bookcase in the other room. I pulled them all out, went through, found a couple of recipes that I liked that seemed fairly low in points. Maybe made a few adjustments to some of them to make them even lower, and I'm going to start trying to work those into what I cook through the week, and hopefully that'll help things out. I do have a couple recipes here that I wrote down. I'm going to be putting those up on the blog. Again, that's at theportlypaladin.wordpress.com. I'll be putting those up, but just to give you an overview of what these are, got like English muffin pizzas that are made with some Thomas's light whole wheat English muffins that come out to 1 point per muffin. For me, I can put on pizza sauce, some mozzarella cheese, a little bit of thinly sliced onions, some pepperoni, some green olives, and they come out to about 3 points per half of a muffin. So for a nice lunch, it'll actually come out, if you do all four, if you do the points correctly, comes out to about 10 points for 4 of the muffins. So that's a decent lunch. Another one that I found here is Italian quesadillas. If you use my recipe for tortillas, which I will be putting up on the site, and make these Italian quesadillas, uses a couple interesting things like some sliced tomatoes, mozzarella cheese. You'd want to use the low-fat part skim type mozzarella cheese, some sliced tomatoes, a little bit of basil, that sort of thing. Would make a nice little lunch. These come out to about 4 points per quesadilla. So 2 of those would make an 8-point lunch. Maybe add in a little sauce if you want something to dip it into for the extra 2 points, and you got that covered. Last one that I'm going to post up that I'm going to mention right now is chocolate meringue cookies. They're made with egg whites and just a little bit of sugar, not too much. 1 cup for the entire recipe. They end up making 4 dozen, so 48 cookies, and they work out to 3 cookies as 1 point. So not half bad. A nice little sweet treat if you want something at the end of the day, like I tend to do. So I'll be putting those up on the blog. Make sure to check those out and try those. I'll be putting probably some more recipes up every once in a while. I've got a nice little stack of recipes here, as you can see, that I've gone through and taken care of. So I'll be putting those up as we go through. And before I continue any further, I do want to bring this up here. Wearing my colors, my Cincinnati Bengals colors. There was NFL draft over the weekend, which brings me to something that I wanted to bring up, which is having people over for the game. I know it's baseball season right now. I'm not the biggest baseball fan, but when football season rolls around, if we have a football season, I will be having people over to watch the games. My wife and I very much enjoy that. We have people over every Sunday to watch the games. We generally will cook a nice meal for everyone. Everybody sort of chips in, and we make something. Prior to this little diet that I'm on now, I used to make things like nachos or chili or like spaghetti and meatballs, that sort of thing. So I'm looking into ideas for nice game day food that's not too healthy, but not too bad either. I want everybody else to feel comfortable eating it and not feel like they're eating healthy food, you know. So I'll be looking for ideas. If anybody has any ideas for anything like that we can put up on the blog, or anything that you want me to look into. If you have a favorite type of food that you like to eat during the games, go ahead and give me a shout out about what that food might be, and I'll look into finding ways to make it a little bit healthier and maybe make it lower points, so it's something that everybody can enjoy and maybe not feel too guilty after the game. After all, you got to save some points for those beers, right? All right, now the next, my big topic for this video that I wanted to talk about is something that is kind of near and dear to me, and that's making your workouts or your exercising fun. I talked about it a little bit in some of my previous videos and some of my blog posts, where I use the Wii as a way to do that. I do a lot of exercising with Wii Sports, and a new game called Wii Active that my wife has. I'm going to start trying to check that one out. Now, unfortunately, it has a strap that goes around your thigh, so it can recognize when you're doing some of the lower body workouts. Being a bigger guy, that strap doesn't really work too well for me. I'm going to be looking into ways to adapt that so that I can start using it. It also has one of those resistance bands for some of the different exercises, which again is a little bit too small for me. But that one I think is going to be easy. I can just maybe tie some rope or something to the ends of the handles to make it just a little bit longer, so it works out a little bit better. But that's something maybe you can look into if you don't want to spend a ton of money on something like a Wii. There are other options, and I do have down here. You can play games with other people. Maybe something a little bit crazy would be out of your realm. I'm thinking things like playing baseball or something like that with people. If you're bigger like me, that's probably something that you can't even consider right now. But there are, sort of, as we're getting into spring and summer, like yard-based games. There's a game that's pretty popular here in Cincinnati called Cornhole. There's not a whole lot of movement in that. You pretty much just stand there and throw little bean bags onto a board that has a little hole drilled in it. But you are kind of moving around a little bit. So getting out of the house, maybe playing some games of cornhole with some neighbors or friends after a little healthier cookout or something like that. That might be something you want to look into. Who knows? Croquet. That's not really something that most people play, but it'd be a way to get up off the couch and get outside and move around and smack around some of those balls and things like that. Another thing you can look into is something that I very much enjoy, and that's listening to podcasts. There are lots of different podcasts out there for a lot of different genres. You don't have to have an iPod to listen. I don't have an iPod. I have just a little MP3 player that I bought at the store. It was about $100. You can buy them cheaper these days. You can get a podcast on darn near any topic. I'm a big geek role-playing gamer, so I listen to a lot of podcasts revolving around role-playing and gaming. But I do listen to a few like comedy podcasts. If you're looking into this, and I think a lot of my fans are geeks and gamers like me, I would recommend a couple of podcasts, like one called Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. That's at happyjacksrpg .org, I believe. Yes, .org. And then we have the No Direction Podcast, if you're a Pathfinder role player. You can find that at 35privatesanctuary.com. Also, the 3.5 Private Sanctuary Podcast is a good one if you're a 3.5 Dungeons & Dragons player. There's Fear the Boot at feartheboot.com. That's a good one. For non-gaming, there's a adult humor comedy podcast that I listen to called Keith and the Girl. You can find that at katg.com. Then, if you're a fan at all of shows like Web Soup or any basic nerdy type stuff, there's The Nerdist. That's a great comedy podcast hosted by Chris Hardwick. You can find that at thenerdist.com. That's a good one. There's tons of others out there. My wife even listens to a pop culture podcast that's a lot about like Hollywood stars and fashion and that sort of thing, like in the pop culture arena. So there's podcasts out there for any interest you might have. Just go looking. You can find them anywhere. Just do some searching on Google. I'm sure you'll find something. If podcast isn't your thing, another thing that I like that helps me get through my day-to-day activities and getting some of my chores done and getting my exercise to where it's not too tedious is audiobooks. Um, you can get books on CD from the local library, and now I wouldn't recommend doing this for something you're giving away or anything, but you can get them on CD from the library. You can rip them into MP3 on your computer so you can use them for your own use. Or there's audio. Trying to think of the website right now. Audible.com. That's it. There's Audible.com where you can find a lot of downloadable MP3 content in audiobook form. I believe iTunes also carries audiobooks in MP3 format. So there's all these different options for audiobooks. There's tons of audiobooks out there that have great acting quality with the voice actors. One of my favorites is the Dresden Files book series. If you've ever read the books, you can tell it's a great series. But the audiobooks, if you listen to the audiobooks, it's a very different experience because they're read by James Marsters, who played Spike on Buffy. He does a great job acting out the roles as he's reading the books. Another, probably the best audiobook I've heard yet is the Harry Potter series, either by Stephen Fry, which is the English version, and I cannot remember the name of the guy who does the American version right offhand. But either one of them are great. They have very distinct voices for all the different varied characters. If you've ever read a Harry Potter book or seen a Harry Potter movie, there's tons of characters. And in those books, each and every character has its own distinct voice. So the audiobooks are not as boring as some people make them out to be. It's not just somebody reading the book. They are acting the book in audio format. So look into that if you're looking for something to help spice up your exercise. The one last thing I want to leave you with is one last exercise tip, and that is, don't forget, sex does burn calories. Have a good time, and until next time, have a good one.